Hello everyone, Ray here. Welcome back. We have yet another very exciting episode today. So we are going to be answering the question, can a foreigner buy and own property in Uganda? This is the most frequently asked question that I get. To help me out with this video, I have a professional lawyer who deals in that, and she is going to tell us each and everything. This is going to be the only video that you need to watch for you to be able to understand that. So if it's your first time stopping by, you're very welcome. I'm Kembabazi. I'm a content creator from Uganda. Welcome to my channel, Connect with Uganda, where I educate you about this country. So subscribe, like, share, and let's dive right into the video. Welcome to this episode. I'm very excited. Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me. Start by kindly introducing yourself to the viewers.
Hello everyone, my name is Atuhairwe Brillian. I am an advocate, I am a lawyer, I practice in all courts of judicature in Uganda. I also work with the Surveyors Registration Board. Thank you for being here.
Okay, so thank you so much, Brillian. So today we are going to be answering the question, can a foreigner buy and own a property in Uganda? So that is the first question. Indeed, can a foreigner buy and own property in Uganda? Yeah.
For starters, a foreigner is someone who doesn't have citizenship in Uganda.
Yeah.
And so yes, a foreigner can buy and own property in Uganda.
Okay.
But there are different modes through which a foreigner can buy and own property in Uganda. So let's talk about land.
Okay.
Let's delve into land.
Okay.
A foreigner can only own a lease or what's called a leasehold in Uganda. They cannot own any other tenure system in Uganda.
Okay. So if you say a foreigner can own a leasehold, would you maybe start by educating us like on the types of ownership? What does it mean for a foreigner to own the leasehold? And also touch a little bit on, is it safe to own a leasehold as a foreigner, or is it unsafe to own a leasehold as a foreigner?
Thank you, Ray. So according to the Constitution and the Land Act that governs land relations in Uganda, there are 4 tenure systems in Uganda. The first one is the Milo tenure system, that's strictly for citizens of Uganda. The second one is the freehold tenure system, which is also strictly for citizens in Uganda. And the third is customary land tenure system, which is also strictly for citizens of Uganda. And then the fourth is the leasehold. The leasehold tenure system is a system where one rents the land, if I could simplify it in a simpler language. You rent the land, and the Constitution allows foreigners to lease that land for up to 99 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting. So would you take us through, maybe explain for us a little bit, what is the lease system, how does it happen, and why is it that foreigners can only own lease? And then most importantly, if they get the lease, once the lease expires, can they renew it, or will the original owner come for the land and take it back?
Thank you, Ray. I'll start with the first question. Why is it that foreigners can only own lease? That's the law. Legally, a foreigner can only own a leasehold title or a leasehold tenure system in Uganda. The reason is because land belongs to the citizens of Uganda in the Constitution. So as a foreigner, if you're coming to the country, the assumption is that you want the land for maybe investment or for a certain period of time, and thereafter this land should revert back to the citizen. And that's why the Constitution provides that foreigners can only lease the land in Uganda. In simpler terms, you can only rent the land you want to use. So the Constitution provides for the years for which you can rent the land or lease the land, which is 99 years, and you can use the land for any purpose depending on the terms and conditions that the parties have agreed upon in the lease agreement.
Okay, so now the question is, one, I know you can either own land for 49 years or own land for 99 years. So first tell us what determines if the lease is 49 years or if the lease is 99 years. What's the determinant there?
No. It's just that the Constitution says you can own land for 49 or 99, but you can either own for less than 49 or more than 49. So there's no determinant, there's no strict determinant, but you cannot go above 99 years as a foreigner. So it depends on the period for which you want to use the land. For example, if you're going to carry out maybe a production project that's going to take 75 years, you have a right to own that land for 75 years. But if you're going to carry out maybe a simple project like maybe farming, or I don't know what simple project you want to carry out, that can take maybe 10 years, then you're also allowed to take out a lease of 10 years.
So it's not limited to 49 or 99?
No. It's
so
only limited, yes,
to
99 is the maximum years that a foreigner can lease out land in Uganda.
Okay, that's understood. Now, when you say land, that also means a house, right? Because sometimes people think, I don't want to buy land, I just want to buy a house. But because I'm assuming the house sits on land, that's why you mentioned land. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason is because when you're buying the house is seated on the land, and so that land must have a particular ownership. There must be an interest on the land. So as a foreigner, you cannot buy land that's seated on a Milo title, or as a foreigner if you want to own it, or as a foreigner you cannot buy a house that's seated on freehold. All you can do is to rent it, which takes us back to the leasehold kind of arrangement.
So now my question would be, I'm assuming, okay, let's say I'm a Ugandan, right? And I want to sell my piece of land to maybe someone who is American, just take an example. But I have a private Milo, or maybe a freehold. But if I have to sell to them on a lease. So how do I convert my private title into a lease title that I'm going to sell to this client that is coming to buy from me?
So the land registry, the Ministry of Lands, has different procedures for which you can obtain different titles for different tenure systems. So if you're a foreigner and you come to Uganda, this is the most commonest example that happens actually. So if you're a foreigner and you come to Uganda and maybe you meet me, Brillian, and I have a particular piece of land, if it's Milo or freehold, what we'll do is that me and you will sit down and agree on the terms of use of that land, the conditions, the terms of engagement. What do you want the land for? For how long do you want to use the land? So after we have agreed to all those conditions, we reduce them into an agreement, which is called a lease agreement. So because I am a citizen and I have a Milo interest in the land, which I cannot transfer to you, that means we will have to get a leasehold title out of my Milo land interest. So what happens is we take my title to the Registrar of Titles, and then we'll fill in particular forms and pay the compulsory government fees, and thereafter they will extract for us a leasehold title from my Milo title, and my Milo title will be caveated and left with the registrar, because then the interest has reverted to you and you're using the land, so that I as the landlord cannot interfere with your years for which you're using the land.
Oh, okay. So what you're trying to mean is, if I sell the land to someone, my client on a lease, the original title that I had, I don't stay with it.
Yes, I don't stay with the original title.
Okay. So sometimes people have a concern that if I buy this land, they bought it from me, maybe for 49 years or 99 years. If they come back, can I come back after 49 years and take the land away from me? Because people are always scared, like here I buy the lease, but then I'm leasing, just like you said, I'm renting the land. So can the owner of the land come and take it away from them after 49 years?
Yes, upon expiry of the lease, the land reverts back to the landlord. That's why in that lease agreement, there's a term of lease. So that's why you need to specifically specify how many years you want to use the land. If you want to use the land for 49 years, for 99 years, you need to specify. Maybe what I could advise the foreigners is that to protect yourself, you can put an automatic renewal clause in the lease agreement. That is subject to the agreements that you have with the landlord. Or you do not have to wait for the lease to expire. If you still have 10 subsisting years on the land, then you can start engaging the landlord when it's early enough about the renewal of the lease agreement. But upon expiry of the lease, the interest in the land reverts back to the landlord.
Oh, wow. So that would mean before my lease expires, 5 years before or 10 years before, I start on the process of renewal.
Yes, a prudent person should start on the process of the renewal.
Okay. So the question would be, if I start on the process of renewal, what does it look like? If I bought the land for maybe 50 million Uganda shillings, do I have to pay another 50 million Uganda shillings? Like, do I have to pay that initial price again? Because buying land can be expensive. So after this amount of time, like, what happens? Do I pay the big amount again? Do I pay just a specific renewal fee? Like, what happens exactly?
So the process of renewal means that you and your landlord are going back on the round table to agree. So you are basically going back to zero. Why? Is because the premium that you had paid for, let's say, 50 years, imagine you bought, okay, for citizens or in this country, imagine you bought land in Chanja at 50 million. The value of the land has already gone up after 50 years. So that means that the premium you paid at the time you were getting the lease cannot apply now, because there's been developments going on, access to amenities, maybe the area has changed from just a residential area to a commercial area, and so there are very many things that you consider. So that means that if you're going to renew the lease, yes, you're going to go back to a round table with your landlord, and then you will have to agree on the new premium fees.
Okay, so now if I want to renew my lease as someone who has been renting this land for 50 years and the landlord disagrees, does that mean that the landlord can take back the land from me? Assume I have developed the land, just like you said, when I buy the land, I can use it in any way that I want. So assume I bought the land, I put up my farm, or I put up maybe like a big structure, apartments. So if now I want to renew my lease, but the landlord doesn't want to renew the lease, but I have my investments on the land and you fail to agree, what happens? Is the landlord going to pay me for things that are sitting on the land?
Upon expiry of the lease, like I said, I repeat this, the land reverts to the landlord. So that means any development on the land, any buildings on the land, any farm on the land reverts back to the landlord. My advice would be, at the time of taking out the lease, take out as many years as you can, so that by the time the lease expires, at least you have exhausted the use of your farm, the use of your house, or even then depreciation has taken its course and then there's not much that you're losing. But upon expiry of the lease, you lose all the interest you have on that land.
So when you say I lose interest I have on the land, if I have my apartments on the land, are you saying they now belong to the landlord?
Yes, because you had rented that land. So what happens is you and the landlord can then sit and negotiate on whether the landlord wants to buy the apartment or whether they would consider buying the apartments from you. But that's also discretionary to the landlord. But upon expiry of the lease, the land reverts back to the landlord. What I would advise is, if you know you want to have to put up big projects on the land, please take out as many years as you can. To be safer, just take out the 99 years, even if you know you're not going to use them, but you are safer because you're covered, as opposed to taking out 15 years and you have developed the land and then your lease expires and then the landlord cannot renew your lease.
So now let me ask you, in your experience as a practicing lawyer, what usually happens? Because what I hear you saying is, actually, if the lease expires, you no longer have interest in the land, meaning the land legally could belong to the landlord. But then you also mentioned something important, that upon issuing the agreement, the lease agreement, the mother title is kept at the registrar's office. So in your experience as a lawyer, how do foreigners usually handle this situation? Like, what usually happens? Do they actually take out the 99 years? Do they actually take advantage of that automatic renewal clause that you talked about at the beginning, what usually happens in order to protect this foreigner who knows that maybe they can't get a full ownership, but they want to have the land for 50 years. Maybe by 50 years they have a citizenship, or maybe they may just want to use the land to invest in Uganda, but they don't want to live here permanently. So what is the best case scenario that someone who is watching may actually utilize to have as good benefits as someone who is Ugandan in terms of owning land and that property on the land?
Okay, the most common scenarios that have happened is that most foreigners you can take out a lease from two types of institutions. One, you can take out a lease from an individual, which I think is something that we've been talking about, but also you have an option of taking out a lease from an institution. An institution, I mean the government. The government has very many representatives depending on what business you want to do. And so if you're taking out a lease from the government, each area council or each district has a district land board. And so what happens is, what I normally advise foreigners is that they would rather take out leases from the government as opposed to individuals, because then the government is not seeking to use this land. So normally they have higher chances of automatic renewal of the leases on the government land. Higher chances, not mandatory, but the higher chances are there, as opposed to individual land. So because government really sometimes doesn't want to utilize this land, or it's not yet settled down to what it wants to use this land for, I would encourage foreigners to take out leases with government bodies.
So when you say take out lease from government and individual, what's the difference? Because I thought all leases are coming from the government. What's the difference? What do you mean?
The difference is that a lease from an individual, I have a Milo title. A lease from a government, they just create for you a leasehold title as yourself. They don't take it from another person's title.
So
yes. This is government land, yes.
But
you're leasing from the government.
But then those are limited options, right?
No, they are very actually common.
They're very common.
Yes.
So
Uganda Land Commission, District Land Board, Uganda Land Board. Every district has a land board. So if you want land, just go to the land boards.
Oh, because I thought that's the normal way. Like if I want to buy land in Chira or Nigeria, I'll be buying it from someone, but then we are going to go through that land's office to be able to get my title, right?
No, that's different.
What's the other case scenario?
The other case scenario is individual versus government.
So how does the individual look like?
The individual is what we're talking about. You go to Chira, someone has a Milo title, and then you buy land from them, and then you want to lease it out. So what they do, because the person already has a Milo existing interest on the land, they'll withhold it at the registry and create a leasehold out of that land, and also caveat the Milo title so that the landlord cannot use the land for any purpose. The other thing that the commonest case scenario, like you asked, that I would advise foreigners is that while you're taking out these leases, take out as many years as you can. Something I've already mentioned. The third is, if you can, put an automatic renewal clause so that it is easier for you, and it's also hard for the landlord to go back against his word because the renewal clause is already in the agreement. Fourth, keep a very cordial relationship with your landlord when you take out a lease so that at the time of renewal, the landlord will be forthcoming and it will be very easier for you to renew your lease.
Okay, the question would be, 99 years is a long time, so probably the landlord could have passed on, or I could have passed on and my kids have the land. So what happens in that scenario? So
when an owner of land passes on in Uganda, they have an estate. So the law in Uganda provides that there should be an administrator who will administer the estate of that person. So if your landlord passes on, the court will appoint an administrator. The family will sit, choose an administrator, go through the whole process of appointing an administrator, and then the administrator will take on after the landlord and administer the estate of that person. At the instance that it is you, the foreigner, that has passed on, then still, because you're operating in Uganda, the laws of Uganda will apply. So which means that they will have to get an administrator of your estate who will take over the interest that's still existing on your leasehold title.
So when you say administrator of the estate, does that mean that someone can choose who their administrator is going to be before they pass on? Like the way someone can write a will and say, I want this person, maybe my son or my child, to take on this property. Is that what it means?
Yes, family law is, of course, is very broad. Yes, that's what it means. So we have two scenarios. We have scenarios where someone will pass on with a will. That's where they say someone has passed on tested. And we have scenarios where someone will pass on without a will. And they call it someone passing on intestate. So in scenarios where someone has passed on and they have left a will, they have clearly identified whom they want to take over them. And in scenarios where the person passes on without leaving a will, then the family will sit and choose an administrator, and then that administrator will go through the whole court process, and they'll be appointed by court and given letters of administration.
Would that mean that the administrator of the landlord and the administrator of the current leaseholder of the land have to deal with each other at a later time when these two individuals that initially did the agreement have passed on? Is that what it means?
Yes, that means if you're going through the whole process of renewing. But in the 99 years, if you're still using the land for whatever purpose you wanted, and no one has challenged you, there's no need for going through that process, because you and the landlord are on the title, and the land is still being used for the existing purpose that it was meant to be used.
Okay. So now the other question would be, I've seen scenarios where some foreigners actually have freehold titles, or they actually have milo titles. So what alternatives can people consider? They may be a foreigner, but they actually want to have a freehold title, a milo title in Uganda. They don't want to risk their landlord turning against them, and then maybe they have
That is expiring, and they have developed the property.
And they have developed the property. Maybe there is a very huge estate and a very huge investment that has been growing over the years. So what options can someone utilize if they actually are a foreigner and maybe want to own the land legally in Uganda?
Okay, the first option is you considering being a citizen of Uganda, because like the constitution says, land belongs to the citizens. But assuming you're a foreigner who is not interested in being a citizen of Uganda, the other option is registering a company. Land can be owned by companies as well. So in the company, you have to have Ugandans own the majority shareholding. 51% should belong to the Ugandans and 49% to the foreigners. Of course, because you have shares in this company, you'll have influence in the company. So you can have a company registered where majority shareholding is the Ugandans and you have less shareholding, but then the land belongs to the company and not an individual.
Okay. And then can people also own land by a trust? That's something I have heard before. Can you explain it?
Yes. Yeah. If you're maybe not staying in Uganda and you want to, first of all, as a foreigner, of course, it's a leasehold, but a trust comes in where you have identified someone to hold this land for you in trust. For example, if Brillian is a Ugandan, I'll use my example, and Rachel is a foreigner, but she doesn't want to go through the whole leasehold process, then they can transfer the land to Brillian's name. But what Brillian and Rachel will do is to execute a trust agreement that clearly states that this land that's being transferred in Brillian's name is actually Rachel's land, and she's holding it in trust for this period of time.
Also, a trust also has a period of time.
You can choose to put a period of time, or you can choose to leave it open. Because you can wake up and change your mind and you want someone else to hold it in trust for you.
To hold it in trust for you.
Or Brilliant can pass on and you have to choose another trustee.
So when you hold my land in trust, assume I'm a foreigner, it's my land, but I can still use it for anything you want? but it's in trust, like it's registered in your name. Is that what it means?
Yes. Because you cannot be registered on the title, you're a foreigner.
But we have
so
a trust
it's Brillian,
agreement.
yes. So Brillian is registered on the land, but between Brillian and Rachel, there's a trust agreement that clearly shows that as much as Brillian is the one that's registered on the land, this land actually belongs to Rachel. So to be able to execute a trust agreement with someone, it's someone you should trust and someone with whom you share values with.
Okay. So what are the terms and conditions of a trust agreement? They are to be defined by these two individuals.
Yes.
And then the trust is like legally formalized?
Yes.
Like
If you want the trust to be legally binding, please ensure to register it with a registrar of documents so that it's a registered document and it's on public record.
Wow. That's very interesting. Okay. So, Brilliant. I know that certain parts of Kampala are only bought on lease or are only rented, like you cannot own them, whether you are a Ugandan, whether you are a foreigner. I know that certain areas in Kampala can only be rented or can only be leased. Some places like in Kololo, in Aguru, people who own houses there or apartments there only get lease titles, regardless of whether they are a Ugandan or a foreigner. Why is that?
Because the land in some of those places belongs to government. So government, just like an individual, can own land. There are areas or pieces of land that have been gazetted specifically for government. Or there's land that government has picked interest in, and it can also acquire and buy land from the individuals. So specifically in the places you've mentioned, most of the land belongs to the government. And that's why you cannot own it as an individual.
Oh, so that would mean if I want to buy a certain piece of land from this particular area, I'm actually buying it from the government. Is that what it means?
Yes, the Uganda Land Commission is a body that manages government property, specifically land. So you'll have to go to the Uganda Land Commission to be able to obtain a lease for that land that has been gazetted as government land.
So let me ask you a question. People who own properties in Kololo, I'm just going to take an example of Kololo or Naguru because we all know these are residential areas. Does that mean that they get their titles from the government?
Yes, they do get their leases from Uganda Land Commission.
But through the lands board still, like they work
Uganda
together?
Land Commission is the body already that is owning the property on behalf of the government. So for them, they're getting their leases from Uganda Land Commission. Like I explained to you, each district has a land board, things like that. So the property, most of it in Kampala or in those areas that you have talked about, belongs or is managed by Uganda Land Commission. So if you want an interest in those properties, you'll have to go to the Uganda Land Commission to be able to give you a lease on that land.
So what if I'm buying from someone who already owns a land in those areas?
If you're buying from someone, which means they are transferring their lease or the only remaining years to you, because then you cannot obtain any other interest in that land because it's government land.
Actually, let me ask. I'm sorry, I have to ask you again on
That's
this
fine. It's okay.
because I know there are people that have always owned homes in Kololo, right? People that have always owned homes in Naguru or Munyonyo, and I know some of those areas you can only get lease. Like they've always had their homes in those areas. So does that mean that it's actually leases? They're all leases. They can only transfer leases if they are selling.
Yes, most of them have leases.
Wow, very interesting.
And like I said, if you take out very many years, you're on a safer side because you'll have the lease running. Your next generation will have the lease running. Also, your third generation will have the lease running. And so that's why you see people have homes in those areas and their leases are still
But
valid.
the mother title is that this land is government land and people are just leasing it and settling on it.
Yes, so the lease title reads as follows. The land belongs to Uganda Land Commission. However, they are leasing it out to Rachel Kembabazi for a period of 99 years for maybe commercial use or residential purposes.
But I can also sell it to a friend or someone, like I can also sell my lease to another person, right?
You're only transferring. Okay, let's use the word sell.
I can only transfer.
You can only sell the remaining years to the other person. So, for example, if you have 99 years and you've already stayed on the land for 30 years, which means you only have a reversionary interest of 69 years. So you can only pass 69 years to
the next person buying the lease or acquiring the lease. Okay, understood. So I also know, when you talk about government land, it reminds me of something. I know certain areas which are specifically government land, like the industrial area or like Namave Park. Like, we are aware of those areas that is government land. So how do I know that this is like a government land, that me as a Ugandan I can only get a lease? Like how are we supposed to know those things?
You can visit the Uganda Land Commission. You Google it. Uganda Land Commission is a body that's vested with the authority of managing and owning property on behalf of the government. So you can visit their offices and they'll give you a list of all the properties that belong to government. But also there are those obvious places that we all know that belong to the government. For example, national parks, zoos, swamps, forests. We know all those are gazetted areas, and that is government land.
So what you're trying to say is this is information that someone can access.
Yes.
Wow, okay. That's very interesting. Okay, so I know we are going to have very many questions, but if you have any questions, you just leave them in the comment section. Then, Brilliant, I think you will have to come and like reply people, yeah?
That's fine.
Yeah. So now the question I'm going to ask you next is, some people are foreigners and they want to start a company in Uganda. They may be a Ugandan in the diaspora, they want to come back home and start a company, but maybe they don't know where to start from. They haven't been in Uganda in a very long time and they don't know how things are running, like things have changed a lot. Or they may actually be like another nationality and they actually want to start a company in Uganda. But I know starting a business in Uganda obviously starts with registering the company. So would you tell us the requirements for registering the company as a Ugandan diaspora and then also as a foreigner? I feel like for Ugandans, they are quite straightforward. We know like what to do. But assume they are a foreigner or a Ugandan in the diaspora, what are the requirements for actually registering their own company in Uganda?
Thank you, Ray. So I'll start with the Ugandan in the diaspora. So companies can take two forms. We have local companies and we have foreign companies. So if you're a Ugandan in the diaspora, chances are that you would want to register a local company because you're already a citizen. So a local company means the shareholding, the biggest percentage is Ugandan. So that means the company is going to become a Ugandan company. So all you need is copies of your passport photographs, your national identity card, the share capital, how much do you want to start the business with, and also your objectives. What business do you intend to start? Your physical address, where do you intend to establish your business? And yes, I think that's it. Your share capital, your physical address, the shareholding of the company, who are going to be the subscribers, who are going to be the directors of this company, and the objectives of this company. What business do you intend to do? So that's all you need as a Ugandan in the diaspora. At the event that you are a foreigner and you want to have a company in Uganda, it can take two forms. You can either choose to have a local company, be part of a local company. What does that mean? That means that majority shareholding, 51% will belong to Ugandans, and as a foreigner you will have 49% shareholding in the company. That makes it a local company. So you will choose shareholders or people to partner with, and then you can give shares, 51% shares to Ugandans, and then you can retain the 49% shares. What you will need as a foreigner is any identification document, preferably your passport, and then also you will need your passport photographs, and then we'll need the physical address of the business, and then the shareholding of the business, and of course the directors of the business, which people are going to be responsible for the day-to-day management of this business. At the instance that you do not want to be part of the local company, company, then you can have a foreign company that's 100% foreign owned. So also all you need is the share capital. Please note that the stamp duty or the official fees or the government fees that you pay differ from what a local company pays and what a foreign company pays. So all you need is the share capital, your objects, the same requirements, your passport photographs, and also your passport as an identification document, and also your directorship, who is going to run the business.
So Brilliant, you've said you can either open a foreign company or a local company. We've understood that the foreign or local is determined by the shareholding. So the question would be, is there any particular incentive to whether to own a foreign company or a local company? Is there any particular incentive, or they just do the same work?
Thank you, Ray. As is, there's no particular incentive for either owning a local company or a foreign company, unless you want to become an investor and you want to obtain an investment license. So if you want to obtain an investment license and you have a threshold of US dollars 250,000, then you qualify to be an investor, and then you can have all these tax incentives and tax holidays that come with being an investor.
Wow. So investment license. So if you have an investment license, you can get tax holidays. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you can, because you're an investor.
So is it only for foreigners, or even Ugandans can be investors?
Even Ugandans can be investors, as long as you meet the threshold. The threshold for Ugandans is US dollars 50,000.
So I feel like investment is something like marketed to foreigners in Uganda. Like, I always hear like foreign investment. So is it like beneficial to only foreigners? Can I also benefit as a Ugandan? Okay, I know investment is like a whole huge topic, but touch on it like a little bit. Maybe you can explore it in broadly next time if people want to actually hear about it. But tell us like a little bit.
For as long as you qualify to be an investor, you're entitled to all these to all these incentives. So whether you're a foreigner or you're a local or you're a Ugandan, as long as you're an investor and you qualify and meet the threshold, then you have all these incentives, the tax holidays, the incentives, and everything that comes with it.
So is money the only requirement, or are there like other things?
No, there are very many other requirements, but like we've said, investment is a whole broad and wide topic. But just a little bit is you need to have a product or like an objective, something unique that you are selling, or an object. For example, you're coming into the country or you're in the country and you're going to employ locals to provide employment, or a service that you are providing that the government cannot readily provide. Yes.
So you have to have like something unique.
Unique, yes. A product that's unique or a service that's unique that you're going to sell to the government.
Or you sell to the government.
Because they're the ones to license you
also
to carry out
sell
that
the idea to the government.
Yes.
Okay, understood. Okay. So let's leave investment for now. There is something else I want to ask you that I'd actually forgotten to ask you about, and that is condominium titles. So most of Ugandans in the diaspora, or people, they just want to buy a property back home, and most of them find it very convenient to buy a condo because the developers who develop condominiums make it very flexible. They put like a payment plan for 2 years. You can pay like a certain amount of money easily. You don't have to be worried that you're sending your uncle money and they're eating it. But then they tell them that they're going to get a condominium title. So meaning you may be 80 families or maybe 50 families. You're in this big structure on maybe 3 plots of land, and you're all living together, and each one of you has a condominium title to their unit. So would you shed light more on someone who doesn't understand the condominium title? Maybe what rights do those people who have titles hold? What rights don't they hold? Can the developer come and take away their title one day? Like, try to educate us on the condominium titles.
Okay, thank you, Ray. So condominium is, of course, a new field in Uganda. It's still a developing field in Uganda, but I like that very many developers have taken advantage of that space. So like Rachel has mentioned, for every condominium unit, you get a title, as opposed to the usual arrangement where you get a title for your land. Now you're getting a title for your unit. If it's a storage block, which means block A or room A has its own title, room B has its own title, and room C has its own title. What rights come with that title? All the rights that come with land ownership come with that land title. Yes, condominium title. And then what can a developer come and, what did you ask?
So what I asked was, can a developer, so assume we are 50 people, we all have condominium titles and we live in this condominium block, right? We may be bought from X, Y, and Z company that they developed this property and sold it to us. Do they remain with any rights to that property, or they do not remain with any rights to that property?
The developer does not remain with any rights, legal rights to that property. But what I have seen happen in Uganda is that the developers will manage the property on behalf of the condominium owners. For example, things like amenities and shared space, the parking, the maybe the garbage collection, the water, the utility bills, the daily cleaning and running of the area. The developers normally have a management system where they will manage the area. But as a condominium land title owner, you have rights over your unit. But of course, because this is shared space, you are tenants in common, so you need to know that while you are utilizing your land, you need to bear in mind your other tenants. For example, if a developer has designated a particular parking lot for you, then you cannot infringe on the other person's space and then take over their parking lots, because it's shared space.
So my other question would be, I know condominium titles can also be lease, or they can be Milo, or they can be freehold. What determines that, and how does it work out?
Okay, what determines that is it depends on the original interest that the owner of the land had. So if the owner of the land had a leasehold interest and the condominium apartments were developed on the leasehold title, that means that the condominium titles will be developed or extracted from the leasehold title. I don't know if I'm clear. Yes, and if the owner of the land had a Milo land interest in the land, that means, and they put up the condominium apartments, then the condominium title will be developed from a condominium title. I mean a Milo title. What happens though is that before they issue titles for each particular unit, this Milo land title is reserved with the registrar. So at the time of development of the condominium titles, the developer is supposed to submit a condominium plan and show the registrar that they intend to put up condominium apartments, and therefore they would like to process condominium titles. So what the registrar does is that they reserve this Milo title, and then out of that Milo title, they will create condominium titles for the particular units.
So that would mean that the developer does not remain with a mother title.
No,
but rather the registrar or the government stays with a mother title and extracts condominium titles out of the mother titles. That's what you mean?
Yes, the developer doesn't remain with any title because they've created now new titles for the new owners.
Okay, brilliant. We've understood that the condo title comes out of the mother title. So the question becomes, the mother title is, assume, let's say, a private Milo, right? Where one can own in perpetuity. So they put a caveat on it, or the register reserves it, and they extract condo titles for the clients who are going to buy in this apartment block. So the question becomes, clients are different. They could be Ugandan clients, they could be foreign clients. So Ugandan clients are going to get private Milo condo titles. So does the foreigner also benefit at that point and get a private Milo condo title, or are they going to get lease?
Rachel, as already mentioned, foreigners in Uganda can only get a leasehold title. So what happens if they have the Milo condominium titles, they will extract the leasehold from the original Milo title for the foreigner. The Ugandan can own a Milo condominium title, but for the foreigner, they will extract a leasehold from that Milo title, and then they'll get him a leasehold condominium title.
Wow. So that means my foreign neighbor can have a lease condo title, and then this other Ugandan neighbor can have a Milo title.
Yes.
But would the lease be renewable? Would it not be renewable?
And it goes back to the terms and conditions in your agreement as agreed with the property developer or your landlord. So like I advise, take out as many as you can so that by the time of expiry, you have exhausted the usage of the place.
So in conclusion, are there like any final points or final advice to maybe people in terms of buying property in Uganda? Things they're supposed to look out for, things that they're supposed to keep in mind if they're going to buy a property in Uganda. Give us like some general advice that a lawyer should give people or a client if they want to buy a property in Uganda.
Okay, the first advice I'll give anyone who intends to buy property in Uganda, regardless of whether you're a local or a foreigner, is you need to carry out due diligence. Please do not just believe what they show you at the face of it. Carry out due diligence. Due diligence involves going to the local authorities of that area and finding out who the actual owner of the property is, as opposed to the person they have told you is the owner, and also visiting the land offices and finding out who is actually registered on the certificates of title, be it a Milo, be it a leasehold. You'll always locate the land offices of that particular area you're interested in, and you'll find out who the actual owner of the property is. Please carry out due diligence, and if you cannot do it on your own, please engage services of a professional, most especially a lawyer, to carry out the due diligence for you. I am here. I can also help if you need me. Yes, so my advice is that please carry out due diligence as much as you can before you purchase any property.
Okay, so thank you so much, Brilliant, for your time. Maybe the question would be, if people want to like reach out to you for legal advice, how can they reach you?
I'll share my numbers. Maybe you can put them in the video. But also we have an office as the Surveyors Registration Board. We are here at Lumumba Avenue in Uganda. So you can come by, or you can send me an email, which I'll share with Rachel, and yes, we can get in touch.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I know there will be very many questions in the comment section, so I'll invite you to reply to them. And guys, if you have any more questions, then you can let us know. So thank you so much for your time, Brilliant.
You're welcome, Rachel.
So guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I hope you've learned a thing or two. So if you've liked it and learned something, please give it a like. But most importantly, share it with someone whom you think is going to find this information very useful for them. And also, if you want a copy of the Uganda travel guide, if you're traveling to Uganda and don't know where to start from to plan your journey, I'm going to leave for you a link in the description. The guide is going to be your guide, just like you hear the name, to make your trip very smooth and very easy, and also to save you time from searching here and there for lots of information. So be sure to check it out in the description. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.